whatever. There's, yeah. I'm gonna pull that up, and then, just wanted to let you know that, Norma Coons is here, she's our court clerk. And she was here this Monday night, she was here for one of the items that was under 3A. Just in such case there are any questions, and she's been kind enough to come back in tonight just for this meeting. So I was wondering if there would be some consideration moving that short item up.
Which one is it?
3A.
Oh, all right. Do we need to take a vote on that, or can we just?
Call me in order.
No, I'm just saying,
Yes, please.
you vote on
Need
the
to move it.
motion.
Yeah.
All right. I'd like to call the meeting, special meeting of the village board to order. It is 6:10 on August 29th. Has the meeting been publicly noticed?
The meeting has been posted and noticed according to law.
It appears that all trustees are present except trustee Bockhorst, who is absent. Do we need anything further? No. Okay. Tonight we have an agenda, a continuation from the August 27th meeting of items that we did not get to, as well as, yeah, I think that's all we have on our agenda tonight. Thank you for amending the agenda online for the public. There's been a request made to move up the item 3A, enhanced collections process of existing outstanding fees as an additional revenue source. Do I have a motion to do so?
I moved to move up item 3A to the start of the agenda.
I'll second that.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 6-0. So at this time, we will take up the issue, and I'll turn it over to Mark.
Thank you. This particular item has a couple of memos attached to it, so hopefully you have an opportunity to review them. These are actually some bring back items from our initiatives a number of months ago, where there was a general sense of more information was requested to get a better sense for what these items entailed, so staff has prepared those memos, attached them to the cover memo that I prepared. And again, just for the record, this is part of an annual budgeting process. Staff has been asked to present the village board for their consideration, opportunities to diversify the village's revenue streams so that they are not as dependent on property taxes to support municipal operations. In this case, we are really not talking about generating any new revenues so much as we are talking about enhancing the method for which we follow up on fines or citations or other charges owed to the municipality that are delinquent and are unpaid. So we brought 3 different proposals of enhanced collections activity to be pursued as a matter of a routine course. We estimate that just from a fiscal impact, if these collections opportunities increase our annual fees collected by 10% on these matters, it would be about $50,000 to $60,000 per year positive impact. There's also a real opportunity here, just because we are where we're at. We've got a significant backlog of unpaid citations and items that need to be further pursued. So there's a significant opportunity for some one-time revenues to come in the next year or two as these collection processes start to get engaged, and hopefully we start seeing these matters resolved in a prudent and responsible manner. So I really don't have a lot to say so much on the memos. The memos are hopefully self-explanatory. Again, Norma is here to answer questions on the first memo if you have any. Chief Nimmer is not here, but again, spent a lot of time giving the board significant backdrop to the processes. And again, the proposed enhancement to start using the auto collect process available with the Duncan system, which then will be integrated into our trip systems as well. And then I have a third memo regarding things like personal property taxes, for which we've gone through our current process to its end, but still have some additional opportunities to consider exploring, all, of course, subject to the board's approval before we move forward on that. So that's my summary.
Okay, any questions from the board? Trustee Warren.
Mark, thank you for this presentation, thank you for the materials. My question is, do we have a sense of how other municipalities are using these kinds of collections vehicles? Is it common, or is it something where we'd be at the leading edge of using these kinds of collections vehicles to collect our debts?
Rebecca, you might actually have a better sense for other municipalities. I get the sense we're trailing, but I don't have any proof of that, so.
Mark did an excellent job summarizing, so I wasn't going to provide any additional comments. But one of the things that stood out when I got here is that, and it happens a lot of times, you know, in organizations over a period of time, particularly with municipal courts, is that we get to the point where we do a good job creating the laws, enforcing the laws, and then we don't do as good of a job or a effective job collecting on the revenue. So from pure administrative perspective, we need to get better at that as an organization. Norma and I are both new. We both started around the same period of time. And so I've had the fortunate experience of pulling apart a municipal court and putting it back together again. And Norma has been game for wanting to learn new things and how we can make our court really efficient, which has been an exciting opportunity for the both of us. So as we've started to look at processes and then dovetail this back to learn more about Duncan and how we can be more effective there, come to realize this is something that they wanted to do in 2015, but just making all these transitions with staffing was a lot. So we need to clean up our room a little bit. Today, Norma had mentioned maybe to the fact that we're the only municipality not using SDC in this area. And you can comment more on that if you'd like. But TRIP has been around for years and it's heavily utilized. The reason why people are now picking up on SDC is because it's just a much more effective procedure. Norma, do you want to comment?
Do you want to state your name?
Sure. So Norma Quincy, I'm the court clerk for Shorewood. So to add on with the SDC, the North Shore area, they're looking into SDC right now. When we say that other municipalities are using SDC, we're talking like in the areas of like Greenville, Greenfield, West Dallas, City of Racine, West Bend, so the outskirts of where we are. And the reason behind that is because of the percentage that they're collecting compared to using TRIP. So in order to have SDC, you still have to use TRIP because it's a certain dollar amount that you can grab. So anything that's a citation, anything over $50 is when you can use SDC. Anything under that, TRIP would take over. So.
So SDC is Department of Revenue, this is Department of Revenue program,
Correct.
but it's basically like a collection. Is it, and how, does it differ at all from how a collection agency would go about it?
Good question. So collection, they take 30% on top of what would be brought to the municipalities. Where the DOR, being SDC, they give back to the municipality 100%. And then they give a fee to the defendant for the SDC. And it's a minimum of $35, if that. They go off by a percentage.
Trustee Martin.
Yeah, on the SDC, are they doing driver's license suspensions under that program?
Okay, so that was a question that was brought up. So I just want to make clear that collections and driver's license suspension is two different things. So there's a difference between the collections and then there's laws that are implemented for driver's license suspension. So someone gets an OWI. It is a mandatory law that they're gonna be revoked because it's a law that's implemented. Usually, there's other reasons. There's new laws coming into play like fail to yield or, I mean, I can't come up with laws off the.
Is not paying debt to the municipality or state a law saying that they would lose it anyways, whether we collect or not?
That is part of being placed into a trip. So you receive a parking citation
Right.
and you refuse to pay. And the municipalities, they give many notices. I mean, we're not just sending out one notice, there are multiple times. And the defendant refuses to pay attention or they don't want to deal with it. What happens is we put them in DL suspension for a year and then we put them in trip. So what is happening and what I've noticed the norm here in Shorewood is I have defendants calling and they're only wanting to pay the citations that are in driver's license suspension. So the other day I had one, they had muni citations, they had traffic citations. They just wanted to take care of the one that was in suspension. They said the other ones they could leave, they don't care about. So that's becoming a norm. Because their driving license is more important than dealing with the other citations.
So we are suspending their, I mean,
There's no, like right now, honestly, there's no consequences. We don't do warrants
okay.
and, I mean, there's no consequences. Either they pay it or they don't pay it. So if they're not paying it, we're just sitting on.
Yeah, I'm not having a problem with
Yeah, no, I'm just
collecting the
explaining.
debt.
Mhm.
I'm just trying to understand that we are not, a number of municipalities are moving to eliminate the driver's license suspension for people who cannot pay. I mean, they just don't have, they're low income, they can barely get to their job, and they see that as a public policy of, we don't want to be punishing low-income people because they can't pay their debts.
And I'm glad you brought that up because I think many times people are uneducated on how the smaller municipalities work. The first thing when the judge enters the chamber, enters the courtroom is he recites the state statute of indigency hearing. So every defendant has the right to have one if they are in poverty and are unable to pay their citations. I also know, and I can't mention too much about it, but I know there's talk about having community service implemented here in Shorewood. I know other municipalities have community service, but I mean, that's something that we definitely I would like to look into more. But yeah, there's options. I think the hardest part is getting defendants to come into the courtroom to understand like there are ways that we will work with you if you are in the poverty level. There's payment plans. Even SDC has payment plans. They're willing, they are working with defendants. They're not just taking wages and taking, their housings or, I mean, there's more to it.
Trustee Warren?
I guess, I don't want to belabor the point, I don't want to be too reductionist here, but I think the board's concern with this is that it would put more people on a path towards driver's license suspension, which would tend to perpetuate some of the problems that the defendants might be facing. So I guess my bottom line question is that if we institute this program, will the SDC end up moving towards driver's license suspension in cases in which it wouldn't happen now?
So driver's license suspension wouldn't change a thing.
Okay.
So that number would not change. It's just the collection. It's really like we're talking about just the collection in itself for the citations. The driver's license suspension is according to like whatever their case might be that is with whatever law that they, what happened, if that makes sense. I don't know how to explain it.
The type of offense.
Yeah, and it's hard because every case is different. So like I said, I try to use OWI because that seems to be like the biggest. So if you have an OWI, you're going to be suspended no matter what. So that has nothing to do with collecting the forfeitures for the citations.
Okay, so they're two very separate things, and this doesn't impact that.
Correct.
Okay.
Trustee Mentus?
So if you have unpaid parking tickets, because the example you gave before was someone had unpaid tickets, moving violation, was a moving violation or parking tickets, and that they were on the driver license suspension list.
So,
Vehicle suspension or?
so unfortunately, I can't talk about parking citations. I don't deal with parking citations. I deal strictly with traffic citations and muni citations. So we're talking about retail theft or burglary, disorderly conduct. And then I'm dealing with like speeding tickets and
Okay, so non-payment of a traffic citation, will that result in driver license suspension? Because I just didn't pay the ticket.
yes, right now, as of
Okay.
today, that's gonna happen.
Okay.
Whether you have SDC or TRIP.
Okay, I mean, my feeling is trip because it's tax, return that you're getting payment back from your taxes, and the state grabs it to register debt. I mean, I have no problem with trip at all. You know, getting into a more formal debt collection type of thing, I have more reservations about. And I did ask, you know, this, I mean, it's great to say we have 2.4 million in outstanding, but I did ask for the age of that debt. And like almost 650,000, it was more than 10 years old. I mean, a lot of, I think if something's more than 10 years, I don't know how collectible it's gonna be. And even if